Get out of here. This is our house, just for my parents and me.
I couldn't hold back my anger at my husband David, who was smirking right in front of me. He was blocking the front door, refusing to let us into the house. This was the day we were moving into our newly built home after completing the handover process. Not long ago, my father collapsed and had to be taken to the hospital, officially becoming in need of nursing care. My mother couldn't possibly take care of him on her own. Therefore, David and I discussed it and decided to build a house together to live with my parents. Despite that, David was claiming it was the house for his parents and him, even telling me to leave. He had no intention of living with my parents or me. Standing behind him, with the same ugly grin, were his parents. My name is Michelle. I'm 35 years old and work as a full-time employee at AB Corporation, the largest company in the industry. I met my husband, David, through mutual friends, and we got married 5 years ago. He switched jobs 6 months ago and became a full-time employee at a small company. We both worked full-time, supporting each other in our lives. We wanted children, but due to infertility, we were unable to have any. Even so, David told me,
Michelle, don't worry about it. I'm fine without kids. Let's enjoy life together, just the two of us.
Yeah, thank you. Let's forget about kids and focus on enjoying our time together.
It broke my heart to know we couldn't have children, but there was nothing we could do about it. So, I decided to accept it and move forward with my life. After that, I threw myself into work, and despite being busy, David and I cooperated with household chores and lived a solid life. Our relationship was excellent. We even traveled twice a year and lived without any issues. One day, I got a call from my parents, who lived in Nebraska.
Hello? Mom, what's up?
Michelle, listen. My husband collapsed and was taken to the hospital.
What?
I was so shocked that my face turned pale.
Oh, he's not in critical condition, though. He just woke up a little while ago. But, he's getting old. He's got chronic illnesses, and his body's gradually weakening.
I see. Well, I'm relieved he's awake. When can he leave the hospital?
He'll probably be discharged in about a week.
Got it. Let me know if anything else happens.
With that, I hung up. Knowing his life wasn't in danger was a relief, but it was clear that both of my parents were aging. My mom injured her leg last year, and she always used a cane to walk. This incident made me seriously consider their future care. Since I'm an only child, I was the only one who could care for my parents. After much thought, I decided to discuss something important with David.
Hey, David. I think my parents will need care sooner rather than later. They're getting older and weaker.
Yeah, that's true. Your parents are definitely older than mine.
Exactly. So, I was thinking of building a duplex so we can live with them. It's probably the best way to prepare for the future. What do you think?
David looked surprised for a moment and then said, while thinking it over. It was natural for him to hesitate. Not many people can decide on the spot to live with their spouse's parents.
You don't have to make a decision right away. Take your time to think about it.
I was about to let the conversation end there, but he suddenly looked up with a cheerful expression.
Let's build the house and live together with your parents.
Really? Are you sure?
I was stunned by how quickly he decided.
Of course.
With a beaming smile, he answered, filling me with joy.
Thank you. I'll call my parents right away.
Thus, we decided to build a two-family house. Since I work for a larger company than David and earn a higher salary, I took out the mortgage. My parents were thrilled about the idea of living together and expressed their gratitude to David for agreeing to the arrangement. However, when David's parents found out about the story, they became sarcastic with me. Every time we met, my mother-in-law named Jessica would say things like,
"How could you prioritize your own parents over your in-laws? What kind of nerve do you have?"
David's parents were still young and healthy as they had him early. Besides, he had siblings who could care for them. Despite this, they kept berating me for being selfish, which was honestly exhausting.
I'm sorry. My parents are quite old. My father already needs care, and my mother could need assistance any time now as well.
Humph, that doesn't matter. Why don't you prioritize us? You're so rude for a daughter-in-law.
Exactly. She is right. Michelle, you are disrespecting us, aren't you?
My father-in-law named Eric chimed in.
No way! That's not true!
No matter how much I explained or apologized, they refused to listen. How could they equate themselves, who are young, healthy, and with other family support, with my parents who are elderly, frail, and have no one else to rely on? While they kept criticizing me for being just a daughter-in-law, I sometimes thought they could rely on David's siblings instead. David would try to defend me, saying,
Mom, Dad, calm down. Don't say things like that.
But his parents continued to attack me relentlessly. Because of this constant tension, David and I gradually distanced ourselves from his parents. Eventually, our new house was completed. On the day we got the keys, I brought my parents to see it. David was waiting at the house since our belongings were being delivered that day. My parents looked up at the house and smiled, saying,
What a beautiful home.
My mom turned to me with tears in her eyes and said,
Thank you so much.
My dad added,
I don't even know how to thank you for building such a wonderful home for us.
I smiled at them and said,
Let's enjoy living together as a family of 4. Come on, let's go inside.
opening the door with them. However, as soon as we stepped in, David's parents appeared, leaving us stunned.
Wait. Jessica? Eric, why are you here?
Confused, I asked them, but they just smirked mockingly. In that moment, I had a terrible feeling. As much as I wished it wouldn't come true, my fears were confirmed. Behind them, David appeared with an unsettling grin. Moreover, he said something shocking right off the bat.
Actually, this house is for my parents and me. The 3 of us will be living here.
What? What are you talking about?
My bad feeling had been spot on.
I never planned to live here with your parents, since the mortgage is under your name. We just waited until the house was finished. So yeah, you and your parents need to leave right now.
Excuse me? You tricked me?
Yeah. I was planning this from the start. I didn't want you to find it out and stop financing the house, so I even kept this a secret from my parents until the last minute. I even pretended to defend you when they criticized you. Pretty convincing, right?
David said all of this so nonchalantly, and
For this reason, take your parents and leave. We've already moved our stuff.
he added with a smirk. My parents and I were fuming with anger, and I said,
I can't believe you. I never thought you could be so low, David.
glaring at him.
Say whatever you want. I was planning to leave you anyway, especially since you can't have kids, but you've got money, so I had to wait. Now that the house is ours, it's the perfect time to end things. Let's get a divorce.
David handed me divorce papers, grinning.
Fine. I wouldn't stay married to someone as awful as you, anyway.
I snapped, snatching the papers and signing them.
I'll file these myself. Goodbye, David.
With that, my parents and I left the house.
See you. We'll be living happily in this big, beautiful house you built for us.
David and his parents laughed loudly as we walked away. After leaving, I apologized to my parents for everything that had happened. They comforted me, saying,
This isn't your fault, Michelle.
I immediately went to the court to file the divorce papers. I had no intention of ever contacting David again, but a month later, my phone started blowing up with dozens of calls from him.
He finally realized.
I couldn't hide my laughter as my phone buzzed incessantly. Clearing my throat, I pressed the answer button.
Hello?
Michelle! Finally, why didn't you pick up sooner?
David sounded panicked.
Stop calling me so much. It's annoying.
It's an emergency. Did you tell the bank we were divorced?
From that one question, I knew my suspicions were correct and stifled a laugh.
Of course I did. Why wouldn't I? The mortgage was under my name, and I'm not living in that house anymore. I'm not about to get sued by the bank for fraud.
Right. Since the mortgage contract required the borrower to reside in the house, I obviously have to report this to the bank when I moved out. If I hadn't reported, it would have been a breach of contract.
Because you reported it, the bank called me. They're demanding a lump sum repayment of the mortgage. Why did it have to come to this? This is ridiculous.
David's voice was full of despair.
How could you not foresee this? You're living in a house under someone else's name. Honestly, why didn't you just transfer the mortgage to your name? Didn't the bank suggest refinancing?
I asked him in disgust.
Well,
He stammered.
Oh, that's right. Since you changed jobs 6 months ago, you probably couldn't get approved for refinancing, huh?
yeah. That's it. I couldn't refinance, and now they're telling me to pay the whole mortgage at once. I'm so pissed. Why is it that you can qualify for the mortgage, but I can't?
David had always been prideful, and getting denied for a loan must have crushed his ego. He sounded bitter and frustrated.
There's no way I can pay the mortgage in one lump sum. So, Michelle, you're going to pay it. Do you hear me? Pay the mortgage.
His absurd demand made me let out a deep sigh.
Why should I pay for a house I don't even live in? Stop making ridiculous requests. If you can't pay, ask your mom and dad to cover it.
My parents, they've blown through their savings. Over the past few years, they've gotten into gambling. Plus, they thought I was the one on the mortgage, so now they're completely freaking out. Michelle, you have to pay.
Know their financial issues are their own problem, not mine. You all need to figure this out on your own. Goodbye.
I coldly cut off the conversation and hung up. Even after that, he kept calling, but I ignored all of them. Eventually, David and his parents couldn't scrape together enough for the lump sum payment. The bank filed a claim in court, foreclosed on the house, and sold it. Since his parents had sold their original home when they moved into the new house, they had nowhere to return to. As a result, the three of them moved into a rundown apartment together. Their financial situation became so dire that even David's parents started working part-time jobs. It wasn't long before I received a call from Jessica.
Hello?
Michelle, you never told us you were the one on the loan. You tricked us, didn't you?
Right out of the gate, Jessica was screaming hysterically.
I didn't trick anyone. You never asked whose name was on the loan.
I replied, already tired of the conversation. Then, she made an absolutely absurd proposal.
If you apologize for deceiving us, I might consider letting you remarry David.
What are you talking about?
Her suggestion was so unexpected that I couldn't help but let out a confused noise.
I'm saying that if you apologize, you can get back together with David.
Look, I have absolutely no lingering feelings for David, not even an ounce, so there's no way I'm marrying him again.
When I firmly stated my stance, she exploded with rage.
How dare you speak to me like that? Who do you think you are? You're just a contract worker, aren't you? And yet acting so cocky.
Actually, I'm a full-time employee.
Are you serious? You're a full-time employee? Wait, are you saying you work full-time at AB Corporation? No way. I was so sure you were just a contract worker or part-timer.
Her voice trembled with shock. Then, as if flipping a switch, she changed her tone to an overly sweet one.
Hey, Michelle. Since you're a full-time employee at such a big company, I bet you make a really good salary, huh? And I'm sure you have lots of savings, right?
Well, I do earn more than David.
Right? Listen, we're struggling so much right now between David's low salary and the little my husband and I make from our part-time jobs. It's really hard to get by as a family of 3. Can't you spare us a little? I mean, we were family once, right? It's only fair to help each other in tough times, isn't it?
Her shameless request left me beyond angry. I was simply stunned. After everything they put my parents and me through, how could she even dare to ask for my help?
On top of that, neither Eric nor I can seem to hold down a part-time job. I try so hard, but if some younger girl criticizes me, I just can't stand it and end up quitting, you know? And my husband's the same way.
Given their inflated pride, it wasn't hard to imagine them jumping from job to job.
Michelle, can't you spare us some money? If you are a full-time employee of AB Corporation, you have plenty of money, don't you?
Listening to her laughing goofily, I responded coldly.
I refuse. You brought this all on yourselves. I want nothing to do with you ever again. Don't contact me anymore.
No way. Wait, Michelle. Just a little. Please, I'm begging you.
No matter what you say, my answer is no. Goodbye.
Wait. Don't hang up yet.
Ignoring her desperate screams, I ended the call. A few days later, my phone rang again. This time, it was from David. Already exasperated, I answered.
What now?
Hey, Michelle. I've been thinking. You're infertile, right? No one else is gonna marry you. So, I figured I'd be generous and take you back.
His statements made me furious, and I reached my limit.
David, you're the one who's infertile, not me. Come on, you've got to accept reality.
Ha! What are you talking about?
The infertility wasn't my issue, but David's. There was nothing wrong with my reproductive health. The problem lay with David. Since it was congenital, the chances of a successful treatment were essentially zero. Therefore, the possibility of us having a child together was virtually non-existent. The doctor made it clear, but David refused to believe it.
You quack! I'm never coming back here.
He stormed out of the clinic, furious. From then on, he started treating me as though I were the infertile one.
Infertility happens because of the woman's body, not the man's. But Michelle, don't worry, even if we can't have kids, I'm okay just living with you.
Despite the doctor's explanation, David clung to his belief that infertility was solely a woman's issue. There will never be a child between him and me, and no good will come from forcing me to convince him that he is infertile. I decided not to argue further because it wouldn't change anything.
As the doctor explained it before, infertility isn't just a women's issue. You're the one who's infertile. There's no hope for you to have children.
When I told David about this again, I could hear faint sound of him gasping for air over the phone. After a long pause, he muttered desperately,
So, I'm the one who's infertile.
That's right. My test results were completely normal.
I've always been insecure about making less money than you, but the fact that I was married to an infertile woman was the one thing that kept me going.
Are you serious? You're really saying that to me at this point? That's disgusting.
Hey, I'm sorry. I'll apologize for everything I've ever done. Please, Michelle, take me back. I need you. My job's a nightmare, low pay and long hours. Besides, things at home with my parents are awful. We fight constantly and I'm completely miserable.
David apologized desperately and asked me to get back together with him, but of course my heart would not be moved.
No. I'm not interested. I don't like you anymore. In fact, I can't stand you. Why would I ever take you back?
Don't say that. Please.
No matter how many times you apologize or beg, the answer is no. I don't want anything to do with you or your parents anymore.
I swear I'll change. Please, just give me another chance.
He just wouldn't give up. I knew I was not going to get anywhere, so I decided to drop the ultimate truth.
To be honest, after our divorce, I met a wonderful man through work. He earns far more than you do and he's incredibly kind.
Are you kidding?
After divorce with David, I met a man named Peter through a business relationship and had become close to him.
He's already asked me to start dating him, and I'm planning to accept. We've gone out for dinner a few times. He's really an amazing person. When I told him about everything you and your parents put me through, he cried and got so angry on my behalf. My parents absolutely adore him.
Peter was a compassionate, trustworthy man, and I felt safe and valued with him.
No way. You're with someone else now.
David's voice was filled with despair.
Yes, I am. So there's no chance of us getting back together. Please give up.
I understand, Michelle. I really am sorry for everything.
I don't need your apologies. If you're truly sorry, just leave me alone for good. Goodbye, David.
With that, I hung up the phone. After that, he continued living with his parents in their run-down, cramped apartment. He seemed to have finally taken a step toward reflecting on his past actions and tried to live more responsibly. He never contacted me again. His parents, however, hadn't changed a bit. They wasted their meager part-time wages on slot machines and continued to struggle financially. Eventually, even David, who had tolerated their behavior for years, reached his breaking point. He packed his things and left them behind. His parents frequently contacted me and gave me one-sided updates on what was going on. Every time they contacted me, they would demand,
Michelle, give us money.
and even when I refused, they would contact me again and again. Gradually, they started to stalk me at my workplace. While I was handling the situation with the police, it became known to the neighbors. As a result, they reportedly became unable to walk outside normally. Not long after that, the harassment stopped completely and I finally blocked their numbers. I have been receiving both emails and voicemails to know what the three of them are up to, but if the ties are being severed, there's no need to keep them anymore. I was finally at peace with my life. As for Peter and me, things continued to go wonderfully. We officially started dating and quickly grew closer. He finally proposed to me the other day and I decided to accept. My parents are overjoyed too. Moreover, Peter has been very proactive, and we are talking about moving in with my parents. I feel that this time I will finally be happy.